Hello there, welcome back to the booth here at the World Magic Cup. That's Simon Gertson. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. It is our pleasure to bring you live coverage of the finals. Only two teams left. It's going to be Japan or it's going to be Poland, and we're going to find out right now. Hello and welcome to coverage of the World Magic Cup. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Simon Gertson, and we're ready for the finals. Japan versus Poland. They're all set in the feature match here. You take a look at Kenta Hirane. He's going to be playing against Radek Kaczmarczyk. And on the middle table, Yuya Watanabe is fading against Gregor Kowalski. You see them finishing up their mulligans. But we're going to be starting right there. That's Peter Glukowski. He's going to be playing against... I said it earlier, the man, the myth, the legend, Simon. He just blew us away the way that he played that last semifinal. That's Shota Yasuoka from Japan. This matchup, by the way, blue-white cycling for Piotr Glukowski. He's going to be playing against Shota on Ramanop red, which, by the way, we have a similar matchup on that first table. Kenta Hirane's on white-blue gift with Radek on Ramanop red, so similar builds there. And in the middle, it's the four-color energy mirror. So these teams brought similar decks, though we managed to not hit the full three mirrors.
Exactly, Marshall. And maybe Yuya is taking a bit more time this time with the energy mirror, but Shota Yasuoka is not wasting any time here.
Not at all. He's gone one drop into two drop. And of course, this is how you get the job done against a blue-white cycling deck. It does need a significant amount of time to get its primary game plan online. And that often involves, well, a lot of cycling, and that can be slow. Now, one of the ways that he can fight, though, is in his hand. It's Renewed Faith. Are we going to see him cycle that here?
Yeah, very likely. He needs to just buffer his life total. And the card he's really working towards is Fumigate. That's his main deck way of dealing with all these attackers. He also has Settle the Wreckage, but that's a bit more easy to play around for Shota.
This is the most interesting play that Shota could have made here because this kind of forces the issue. It's going to be a sensor from Piotr Glukowski. He's going to take down that Rampaging Ferocidon with it. But that can really force the issue on Glukowski on whether he wants to, use cards.
Yeah.
Like Renewed Faith and such, as a cycle right away, or to actually play it for the full 6 life.
And that's an aggressive Drakehaven. Piotr basically threatening to make Drake starting the turn after, but he's dropping so low in life total that the 2/2 Drakes might be coming too late here.
Yeah, now with a land drop, he actually can produce 2 Drakes this turn, or at least 1. Sorry, I may have spoken too soon. I think he can just make the 1. Let's take a look. Cast Out will make 1. No, he has plenty of 1-mana cyclers. So he can make 2 Drakes this turn.
And that's big.
Is it too late?
That's big. That's the question. The good thing also is that they enter the battlefield instant speed. So the Crasher, for example, you can't exert it targeting a Drake token.
Shota Yasuoka, interestingly, he's just going to attack with the On-Crop Crasher as well as the Soulscar Mage, leaving back the Kenra. You can see Glukowski cycling away one of his hieroglyphic illuminations to make a Drake and then attempting to go to blocks. A Braid, though, well, I actually don't know if it got to block or not. I'm going to assume not. All right, so a Braid takes it down, and that's going to prompt another cycle here for Piotr Glukowski. Is there a shock in hand for Shota?
Well, he would have...
I'm going to say yes.
He would have had lethal. He would have had lethal had he attacked with everything, but he not only had to play around 1 or 2 cyclers, he also had to play around Settle the Wreckage.
Right, of course. Now, as it stands, though, he gets in for 6 and knocks Piotr Glukowski down to 1 life.
It's almost impossible to come back from that. Against all these attackers and a deck that's filled with Ramanop Ruins and Sunscorched Deserts, what are you going to do? Renewed Faith hardcast, gain 6?
I mean, he could Renewed Faith hardcast to gain 6, then cycle Sensor and make a Drake. That puts him at 7. He can block the On-Crop Crasher.
He's also always representing Settle the Wreckage here. He could have cast it last turn, So Shota now has to decide, is there a chance that Piotr is actually holding Settle the Wreckage? Would he have made the play he did, double cycling of the Illumination, if he was holding Settle the Wreckage? And also since then, 3 new cards.
Interestingly as well, you see Shota going through that process as you walk us through it, Simon, as you see him ask how many cards you have in hand. You know, of course, more cards in hand makes it more likely.
And he has decided that his highest win percentage play here is attacking with everything. And now something interesting here, if he gets Settle the Wreckage, he gets 3 lands out of his deck. Mm-hmm. That means Ramunap Ruins can be activated next turn.
Right. So not even all downside for Yasooka. And as it stands, he's not going to get Settle the Wreckage. I think that that Piotr's best line is to try to just gain 6 life here and make a Drake and block.
No, he's actually cycling the Renewed Faith here.
Oh, he's going to cycle to gain 2 life, make a Drake, and then make another Drake? Okay.
Yeah, that ultimately seems like the better play.
That gets him 2 Drakes plus 2 life. Wow, and we start to see that early Drakehaven aggressiveness from Glogowski's might be paying off here for him, Simon.
Oh yeah, this is looking good. Piotr is now on 2 though, and he has not hardcast Renewed Faith, which means Ramunap Ruins is looking super scary.
Like 1 land away, super scary?
Exactly.
Okay. And we can see that Shota is going to start applying pressure from multiple angles, considering running out of Soulscar Mage here.
Holding back Encore Pressure in his hand, but he also has that untapped 5th mana source.
So he has the win in multiple ways.
Now Piotr needs to represent strength here. He needs to represent that he has ways to deal with these attackers and with the activated ability of Ramunap Ruins, which I think in the main deck can only mean another Renewed Faith, which we currently don't see in his hand.
Not seeing any way out here for Glogowski.
Abandoned Sarcophagus would be too slow. The second Drakehaven in Glogowski's hand is not doing anything. And also he knows Shota is not giving him any breathing room here. Piotr had to figure out if there was any reason to cycle in his main phase. If there were any outs that he could draw for which he would want to be in his own turn.
Here's an on-crop crasher for Shota. Glogowski takes a quick look at his hand. We can do the same. Another Drakehaven. Well, that's not doing anything. Censor, make a Drake, plus cast out can take care of 2 of the threats, at least temporarily. But there's also Bomat Courier now for Shota Yasooka.
Yeah, who actually emptied his hand, so he did not have an extra mana source there.
So what can Glogowski do here? Make a Drake, help to find Renewed Faith or something?
He wants to top deck Settle the Wreckage.
Settle the Wreckage right here?
And then he still needs to draw into life gain, but then at least he has an out.
Cycle. He can cycle again. He found a Censor there.
And that allows him to stay alive at 1.
It does. Yeah, it looks like that was not a Censor, or at least he decided that there was no way out, and Shota Yasooka continues the warpath here in the finals. He won the clinching game in the semifinals to put Japan here, and now he's up a game over Pyotr Glogowski. We're going to have more action after these messages.
Always know the right play to make? Show off your skills at a local preliminary Pro Tour qualifier. With over 2,000 game stores worldwide running PPTQs, find an event near you at magic.wizards.com/PPTQ.
So Magic the Gathering Arena, We chose that word arena very particularly because an arena is a place where people gather, where people come to compete, where people come to spectate and cheer on their favorites. It really is a place where the whole community can come together and experience the very best of what Magic has to offer.
And welcome back to the feature match here at the World Magic Cup. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Simon Gertzen. We're in the finals. It's Japan versus Poland. And as we join our main middle table here, this is actually game number 2, Simon. Gregor Kowalski, he took down Yuya Watanabe in the first game, and that was pretty quick because our game 1 that we watched didn't last that long either.
So Yuya does lose games sometimes.
We have it on documented record that occasionally he loses games, though we haven't yet documented a match loss, so we'll see how this one goes. Kowalski, though, you and I were having a chat about him earlier. One of the lesser known but very good pros from Europe who's starting to really make a name for himself in the pro community.
Exactly, and we've known him for much longer as somebody that has been putting up impressive results at European GPs. But now it seems like the pro community, the international community, has also caught on. Kowalski's name was alongside, of course, Piotr Goglowski's top 8 performance, one of the names that we heard a lot at Pro Tour Ixalan.
Yeah, Polish Magic really making its mark now on the individual level, but also, of course, right here on the team level.
And maybe an interesting tidbit, the 4-color energy deck that Kowalski is playing this weekend is an updated version of the list that Glogowski played to a top 8 finish. So it's not Glogowski that's playing his top 8 deck, but it's Kowalski instead, who probably played the same deck at the Pro Tour, to be fair.
Sure. Yeah, Kowalski didn't really want to have to play against Yuya Watanabe, but look, this Japanese team is stacked. We talked about them before the tournament even started as being one of the front runners to win this thing, just based on, the strength of the team, the players on the team. Kenta Hirane, he's the non-Hall of Famer on the team, and that guy, he can battle.
It's not like you're going to fist pump because you're getting paired against Kenta, right?
That is just not good for you. That's right. Yeah, there's no easy wins here against the Japanese team. And right now, Poland and Japan, well, they've each won a game. Not even a match. No matches to finish yet. We're still in the early part of the finals here, but they have split games thus far.
A bit suboptimal to have a tune with Ether only on turn 2. Makes everything a bit slower. But that's actually not as bad in the post-board games, which are generally a bit slower because you can't rely on Long Toss Cup as much.
Looks like Yuya is going to get an island here. And for those of you just tuning in, you may not have seen that island before. Those are from Unstable, the unset. They're not available quite yet, but you will get them in those booster packs. And Wizards has kindly allowed these players to run them here to kind of show them off a little bit and get them in the hands of some of the good players. And I have to say, I'm a fan. I like those. Some people prefer the bordered look on their cards. They kind of like the container, but for me, I'm all about that full bleed. I like it.
It's definitely a nice change. They had to evolve the full art somehow, and actually the unsets, the first set ever to actually make these full art cards.
Yeah, the artwork is by John Avon, who did the unhinged ones as well. He's just unreal. Things are starting to develop here on the game. A little bit of a slow start for both players with turn 2 Attune with Ethers. Not for Yuya only, but also Gregor.
Yeah, and you can look at Kowalski's hand here. 2 Servant of the Conduits, 2 Rogue Refiners, but instead we're seeing a turn 2 Attune with Ether. That's not the perfect curve out. It's kind of an awkward sequencing there. Probably drew the Attune with Ether. You can tell just from the contents of Kowalski's hand why this matchup is a bit slower after sideboarding. Lots of answers, lots of value cards, lots of mana, and then just trump cards like, for example, River's Rebuke.
Another update to bring you here, by the way. Kenta Harane, we were just talking about him a second ago. He won his game 1 against Radek Kaczmarczyk, so that is white-blue Godpharaoh's Gift. It must be said, stealing a game off of Ramanov Red in game 1. I mean, he was on the play, Kenta was, but
I really enjoy watching that matchup.
nice.
I think the Gift versus Ramanov Red is not as clear as you would think. It's not some life gain deck just crushing Ramanov Red. That's not how it goes at all.
not at all. Okay, good follow-up play here. This is a Bristling Hydra for Yuya Watanabe after playing that Rogue Refiner on turn 3. Gregors is also going to play a Rogue Refiner, though he did tap his Servant of the Conduit, meaning that it looks like he doesn't have another land dropped, and he missed it there.
Yeah, that's a huge problem for him. He had a somewhat awkward draw. He was Yuya was on the play after losing game 1, so Gregor kept a green source and just wanted to draw lands for his Servant, but instead he drew the Attune 1 turn too late, and even with the extra card from Rogue Refiner, he's now under extreme pressure, and that's where Bristling Hydra is just so threatening.
You know, Gregor's forced to just trade off Rogue Refiners here, but take a big hit of damage from the Bristling Hydra, and you see pretty aggressive here from Yuya Watanabe as well. So gets in for 5 with the Bristling Hydra.
Yeah, wants to maximize here. Wants to maximize the damage that Gregor is taking, and I think that's a good choice. There's a bunch of 3 damage removal and 3 power creatures to block with. Once you have 4 toughness, it's much more difficult for Kowalski to put up a blocker.
Yuya drew a nice one there. He drew a Harness Lightning off of that Rogue Refiner, making his hand pretty powerful with Negate, Harness Lightning available right now. And look at this, Harness Lightning aggressively taking down another mana source here from Gregor Kowalski. And you got to feel like it's just about over.
Yeah, this is a blowout. Land number 5, kill your mana source, and what do you have with your 2 lands?
It's a Botanical Sanctum off the top for Kowalski, so he does actually have 3 mana available now, but is it too late?
The dream scenario here is land, Rogue Refiner, and then maybe a Hydra next turn, and that probably still loses to just the board of Yuya.
Yeah, this is certainly not going to get the job done. Also, Yuya has Vraska Relic Seeker in hand and just needs any untapped land to play it.
Yeah, a negate backup.
Oh,
should
yeah.
it ever come to a removal spell or something like River's Rebuke? Confiscation Coup, of course, always on the back of players' mind in the mirror match.
So it looks like he's going to cycle a Sheltered Thicket here. And then attack with both. Yuya Watanabe perfectly happy to trade off Rogue Refiner for Servant of the Conduit. It's really crimping Gregor's game plan here. He just doesn't have access to enough mana to deploy all those cards in his hand.
He also doesn't have access to red.
Yeah, no red at all.
And keeping Gregor off blockers means that the Hydra will just keep attacking. It's one of the best cards in these post-board games for a reason. And as you can see, Yuya aggressively pumped the Hydra, which means that even if you block the Rogue Refiner here, you're looking at a 2-turn clock no matter what.
We were talking about the basic lands earlier. Poland's playing one white-bordered basic in with those sweet unstable lands for style points, apparently.
Yeah, I think Gregor
Ooh, he drew a mountain.
prefers his white-bordered basics. The only reason I can think of is that it's easier to find them with Attune with Ether, or they're just good luck charms. I don't know.
Well, you're certainly not missing those other ones.
That's
border,
yeah,
they
that's true.
stand
They are quite obvious.
Okay, another copy of Servant of the Conduit and a mountain off the top there for Gregors means that he does get to fire off one of these Harness Lightnings or Abrades that he's got in his hand. But what are the good targets here?
It doesn't even matter. Even if he was allowed to target the Hydra and it wouldn't get hexproof for some reason, Yuya would just use one of his negates to deal with the with the answers of Gregor. So this game, Yuya has just dominated, and it has been because of the mana troubles that Gregor found himself in.
Yeah, and then Yuya, of course, encouraged those mana troubles by using removal spells on Servants of the Conduit. Here's another attack from Watanabe, looking to even things up against Gregor Kowalski. And it's just double chump block here to stay alive for Kowalski. He's going to use a Braid to keep his Servant of the Conduit alive, but he'll lose the other one.
I kind of like
Yuya's
spending a
considering
negate
negating here, yeah.
It is a lethal attacker. That's
is.
usually not the case for Rogue Refiner, but in this particular case, it is somewhat valuable to just keep the pressure on Gregor and make that chump blocker go away with trading it with a negate.
That's right. He trades off effectively negate for Servant of the Conduit, but additional, it's mana, right? That's another mana source there for Kowalski, who has had plenty of spells in his hand this game, just hasn't been able to find the mana to actually use them. Forest for Watanabe passes a turn back, and another burn spell off the top. That's the third Harness Lightning now in hand for Kowalski. He can only cast one.
And Yuya doesn't even need negate because that Hydra
Has
is
negate built in,
unstoppable.
doesn't it? Yes. And it will win him the game here. With a second red mana source, we could be talking business, but yeah, sure, fire it off, force the issue, now attack you. And that's going to do it for this game. Yuya Watanabe evens things up for Team Japan. And this one's actually going pretty quickly here. I'll tell you what, if you're following along at home, not time to go get a sandwich, Simon. This is where you want to sit and watch because Shoti Asoka, Yuya Watanabe, and Kenta Harane, they've all won a game now. With Gregors Kowalski, the only Polish player able to take a game thus far. And what do we have here? Well, this is interesting. We see very powerful card for Shoti Asoka. That, of course, is Hazoret the Fervent. But on the other side, triple Drakehaven?
That's
How do you get through that?
insanely powerful.
How many cards in hand? Is that just one card,
At
though?
least one. I mean, the one that's face down there
Volkovsky?
has to be in his hand.
Do you think it has cycling?
Do you think Shota knows if it has cycling?
That's the big question, isn't it? Well, let's find out. Both of these creatures are going to hit the red zone, though. Glogovsky is at 16, it looks like. Yeah, it has cycling. It's cast out, and he's going to cycle and then make 3 Drakes off of this. Now, Drakes don't do much against Hazoret other than chump block.
Yeah, but if
But he
you make 3 Drakes with every cycling card,
Yes,
I think
Hazoret's
you can
never
make-
getting through, right?
you can do some chump blocking.
Yeah. He's actually just going to triple block the Ether Sphere Harvester. But that does mean that he takes 5 and falls down to 11. But again, any cyclers, and of course, this is what this deck is built to do, cycle into more cyclers, right? This is the whole point of the deck. There's Authority of the Consuls. That is not a cycler.
Yeah, it's unfortunate if your sideboard cards don't work well with your 3 Drake Havens there. But actually, Piotr is even threatening lethal quite early because he has drawn the Shepard Dunes for the mini overrun. Should it ever get to that?
That's right. But in the meantime, Glogowski's down to planes in hand. He does not have any more cyclers, and he's getting desperate for them at this point.
Piotr has to draw something, otherwise Shota is just winning this game that looks almost unwinnable.
He'll actually just win next turn. Because look at this, 5, 9, 10, 11 off of the Ramanep ruins. I believe there's one in the pile there.
Doesn't matter, there's a Hazoret, so 2 damage is
Sure, there you
is
go. Any
guaranteed.
card off the top. He's got damage coming from multiple directions, and Glogowski has to find something. If it's a land off the top here, he's done.
That's crazy.
Shota Yasuoka has been running circles around this feature match all day today.
Is Piotr Glogowski losing the game with authority of the consoles and 3 Drake Havens on the battlefield?
Right, and he's got, 8 lands, 9 lands? This is the whole point of his deck, is to get exactly to this point. And Shota is still just this close to winning. We don't know what Glogowski's card is, but here we go. In they come. Is this a cycler? Oh, it's Settle the Wreckage for Glogowski. Oh, that's a
Wow.
good one.
Yeah, that really turned things around.
What
here.
a top deck for Piotr Glogowski from Poland, alleviating all pressure. Now, I wonder if there's an Earthshaker Kenra in the graveyard. Yes, there is. I can see it on the graphic. Let's take a look. So that means that Shota Yasuoka can bring that back. Now it's going to put Piotr up to 13, but he has an attacker again. But now Piotr's bought himself so much time, and he's really just one cycler away at this point.
If Piotr draws a single cycler, he's incredibly likely to win the game here.
Land go. Man, Settle the Wreckage. What a beating.
Without Settle the Wreckage, Piotr would have been dead to the 2 creatures and an additional 2 points of burn. Still taking damage in a position where you're thinking you must be winning here.
Yeah, I still feel like he's favored, though. He's at 11. Basically, Shota needs him to draw a couple of lands in a row, and then he could win.
Yeah, lands or authority of the consoles, maybe the 4th Drake Haven if he boarded it in. Cards like that are just not helpful in this spot.
It was cast out off the top, Simon.
Okay, that's huge.
We're showing his hand as Settle the Wreckage and cast out here. If that's the case, he's in great shape.
So you just take the 3-for-1, right? You just
Yes. I
you
mean,
just fire it off.
yeah, because he didn't cast the Settle the Wreckage last turn.
Okay, he's debating a little bit. Maybe he also wanted to know if Shota had any responses.
How about irrigated farmland? Like you said, one cycler, and that's really all it took.
because he will draw into more, and that's the whole point.
Yeah, that's how this thing works. And now look at these blocks from Glogowski. He just starts piling drakes onto every creature that's coming in. They're fully expendable, and even after that melee, he's still left with 6 power of drakes in the air. And Glogowski has successfully drawn himself out of what looked like a very tight situation there. And now it's all looking good for him. He's at 12 life, and things look good.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that we will see an attack here, then 1 or 2 more cycles, and then an attack with everything, or an activation of Shepherd Dunes will close out this game.
How about we cycle a sensor and make a bunch of drakes? And you know what? Shota Yasuoka's seen enough. Now, he did win the first game, but that was Piotr Glogowski winning game number 2 and evening things up. So a quick snapshot of the feature match here has Shota Yasuoka, Piotr Glogowski even at a game apiece. Yuya Watanabe, Gregor Kowalski, same thing, even at 1 game apiece. And then we've got Kenta Harane. He's playing against Radek Kasmarchik, and Kenta's up a game in that match. So slight lead to Japan at this point.
Tiny edge, 3-2 in games across all these tables.
Okay, so let's get going on that back table there. This is mono red this time, though, for Team Poland playing against the white-blue God Pharaoh's gift deck from Harane. So this is a deck with the ability to gain a lot of life, kill a lot of creatures. What's the game plan here for Harane?
Harane wants to gain a lot of life. Definitely wants to get Angels of Invention onto the battlefield, Godfarer's Gift onto the battlefield. Has to be really careful of Rampaging Ferocidon. That's the card that makes it so difficult to execute that regular game plan of chump blockers, life gain creatures, and into Godfarer's Gift.
Okay, so it looks like strategic planning here for Harane. He's going to pass a turn back. Did he get anything good in the yard? Well, he got a Champion of Wits, so that could be handy later, but isn't doing anything at the moment.
No, but it tells me that he found something powerful, because Champion of Wits would have been a good turn 3 play.
Okay.
He can't have been unhappy with that strategic planning.
Yeah, speaking of being not unhappy, Radek runs out a Rampaging Ferocidon and then gets in for 3 damage. So he's firmly ahead on board, and the pressure is on Kenta Harane here. Okay, how about a Fairgrounds Warden to take down the Rampaging Ferocidon, at least temporarily?
You have to deal with it. It's not as reliable as a Thopter Arrest, but it's a 1/3 that is threatening to block here.
Wow, the follow-up play. Look at this curve out. Bomat Courier, he went 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop on him.
Yeah, and the 3-drop was the card you want in this matchup. The 4-drop was Chandra, Torch of Defiance, arguably the most powerful card he could play in that spot.
Yeah, he kills the Fairgrounds Warden, and it is starting to look like we're going to have a trio of Game 3s to decide the World Magic Cup this year.
Just like it should be.
That is kind of how you draw it up if you're sitting in our seat, Simon, but it's going to be high tension in the feature match area for these players, as there's so much riding on just single games of Magic.
And it's funny how we are playing up to 9 games to decide these matches, and then it still often comes down to the final game.
Yes, which is exactly what happened in our second semifinal, by the way. Okay, Harane continues to add to the board, though. His life total plummeting. He's down to 7. And it's going to be hard for him to get out of this mess, especially with Chandra, Torch of Defiance out there.
Oh, he draws a Lightning Strike.
Oh, no.
I think that might be lethal already this turn.
Probably. He has a backup Chandra as well? Is that what I'm seeing? My goodness.
Yeah.
Well, this has just been a savaging.
Unlikely that we see this Chandra. Not really necessary, but what's the best block that Harane has? He's taking 3 on this attack either way, so I think Radek just has lethal here.
Yeah, pretty easily. He's got Kenta Harane down to 5 now. And we know, of course, about the 3 damage in hand, so Kenta Harane is at a virtual 2. And, all right, we're going to get aggressive here. Radek's just going to go ahead and play out the other copy. He can use the 2 mana to cast the Lightning Strike if he wants. None of it actually relevant. He has many routes to victory, and he finds one. And Radek Kazmacic has evened things up. Boy, we actually are getting the dream here. Game 3s across the board to decide our World Magic Cup here in 2017. This is awesome.
Yeah. Yuya will be on the draw. He won game 2. But the other 2 Japanese players lost their game 2, so they will be on the play.
And we are underway here. This is a pretty big match, as it's going to kick off the festivities here in these Game 3s and set the tone going forward. The winner of this match will put themselves in a position where their teammates just simply need to win 1 game of Magic, and they'll have 2 shots at it. The loser is going to have to look to the sides and say, I'm sorry, guys, but you both have to win. No. And that is a tall order, to say the least. This is a very strong team from Poland, but it has to be said that Japan was probably the best team coming in just based on merit, based on...
Based on pedigree.
2 Hall of Famers and Kenta Harane. This has been a fun story to watch unfold. I actually got to do coverage of Japanese nationals this year, so I saw these players get their seats and how that whole thing went down as well. It was really interesting to see this come to fruition, because I remember thinking after that tournament, I thought to myself, well... I don't see how you get much better than that. And there were some teams that were close, but come on. Yuya and Shota plus, a ham sandwich or something is already quite good.
And Yuya was also in that top 8, if I remember correctly.
He absolutely was in that top 8, yep.
We see here the tech card, cut to ribbons. Yuya had to make some adjustments to his 4-color energy deck.
So far the board remains clear for both players. This has got to be a Rogue Refiner here for Watanabe, and that's exactly what it is.
Look what I spotted in Watanabe's hand, though.
What did you see?
Nicol Bolas.
Oh, Nicol Bolas God Pharaoh?
This
Oh, man, he went big.
means if this game goes long, we will have potentially Vraska on Gregor's side and Nicol Bolas on Yuya Watanabe's.
This is insane. That Vizier of Many Faces for Kowalski just copied the Rogue Refiner, the only target. You often see it copy a Rogue Refiner, though. That is a pretty common play.
Especially in the early game where you don't have much else to target. And then it comes back. So you're getting so much value out of a single card.
I've been really impressed by Vizier of Many Faces. It's a little slow at 4 and 5 mana, but as long as you're not under immediate threat of death, you get your value. I've seen it completely take over games before.
It's difficult to lose with hands that have 1 or 2 Viziers because at its worst, it can match whatever your opponent is doing.
Right.
So if you didn't manage to draw a Bristling Hydra, for example, you can always copy the one your opponent played.
Here's a Bristling Hydra now for Kowalski. So we are toe-to-toe, neck and neck here, as we've got the exact same board state for both players.
Of course, the Vizier at the same time disincentivizes attacks because Yuya doesn't just want to give Gregor a free embalm out of the graveyard.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see Yuya start to get the wheels churning in his mind about getting that Nicol Bolas God Pharaoh down, now. Like he's going to start crafting his game plan around that. Although Watanabe is not short on value in that hand either. He's got his own copy of Vizier of Many Faces, so it looks like he can't currently cast it as he needs that Servant of the Conduit.
Yeah, he has cut to ribbons, but not really an exciting target.
Okay, there's Bristling Hydra.
I like this attack. It's not possible to trade Bristling Hydra with the Vizier that's copying Rogue Refiner because Watanabe would just spend 3 energy. So it's basically saying, do you want to trade Bristling Hydras? Yes or no?
And that does benefit Yuya in some way.
No, it's not a huge deal, but he wants this clarity basically. He wants an easier board because his hand is basically made for this late game that he's working towards. Oh wow, Kowalski's hand could be the perfect answer to what Yuya is working towards.
Wow, he has the negate plus Vraska Relic Seeker to help dominate the game. Looks like he's going to take things slow and go for Servant of the Conduit.
He doesn't want to tap out this turn because he has negate, so he's scared that if he taps out for Vraska, he might be running into counter magic or removal on Yuya's side, and then he gets punished with a negate in hand, which you definitely don't want to see. But this might benefit Yuya immensely.
Yes, Kowalski giving Yuya Watanabe a lot of respect here.
One thing I've talked about a lot during this standard format, whenever I was commentating, this matchup is very much about who can get control of the battlefield, because all these Haymaker, or most of the Haymakers are Planeswalkers, but if you are falling behind on the battlefield, those Planeswalkers are only going to get you 1 activation. What you really want is you want to always have 1 creature more on the battlefield, and Yuya has been the one that achieved that in this mid-game at least.
There's Whirler Virtuoso now for Kowalski.
That definitely changes the equation. The 1/1 tokens made by Whirler Virtuoso are a huge mirror breaker.
12 energy now for Gregor Kowalski as well, so he is well stocked on energy. Yuya's on 11, so no joke. But Yuya really does need to find a way to get control of this board, because even if he is able to cast that Nicol Bolas, which, by the way, he could do now, he's going to wait. He's going to go for Vizier of Many Faces.
He can't afford to run Nicol Bolas into a negate, just like Gregor can't afford to run his Vraska into a negate. So both of these players are actually not exposing their planeswalkers, and Yuya is making the smart decision here to match Gregor's energy count and token-making abilities.
Yuya's going to force an issue here, though. He's going to cast Cut on the Whirler Virtuoso and kind of put Gregor to the test. How many Thopters do you want to make?
Often the answer is as many as I can, because there are not really ways to punish you for making too many Thopters. Usually what will happen is opponents will just make the same amount of Thopters with their own Whirler Virtuoso and then trade them 1 for 1. If you don't do that, what are you going to do? You're going to have to Fatal Push the Thopter tokens, and that's definitely not something you want to start doing.
Well, Kowalski moved all in. He just made 4 Thopter tokens in response. And he just wants to take a quick look at the mana base that Yuya Watanabe has available to him. Interesting, though, that Kowalski is now tapped out on energy. He's going to play Vraska Relic Seeker, though, and kill Servant of the Conduit. Is it possible that that was Yuya's only black mana source?
It is, yes.
Look at that.
Heads up play there.
That could easily strand Nicol Bolas in hand. Interesting.
But Gregor is also holding up the negate that he still has.
Oh, was that Vraska off the top now for Watanabe?
Without a black source?
Yes.
You don't want your second black planeswalker when you can't cast the first one.
Look at this. That play by Kowalski to take down the Servant of the Conduit may be paying off huge for him here.
Yeah, and it's a high-level play because it doesn't look like a scary card unless you realize that Yuya doesn't have another black source.
It's crazy because there's so many different ways for Yuya to get black mana in this deck. He's got Ether Hub, Attune with Ether, and Servant of the Conduit, yet he's only found one, and it was the most fragile of them. Now what is Yuya up to? Is he attacking? He's going to start attacking Vraska, it looks like. Which could prompt a bit of a mass trade-off here.
I think Yuya has realized that he needs his own Vizier to die. That's kind of his best chance at turning this game around.
So he can copy the Servant?
Maybe, yes. It's crazy. You could also copy your Rogue Refiner, but is a random card really better than the guaranteed black mana that the Servant will make?
Harness Lightning is the only castable spell here for Watanabe.
Huge trades here. And Gregor not killing Whirler Virtuoso.
Look at that board state. It's just completely evaporated in front of us. Yes, and he has been very careful to leave that Vizier of Many Faces alone. And Yuya Watanabe has two of his most powerful cards in his entire deck in his hand, and he cannot cast them. Whirler Virtuoso is, however, left behind and can at least start to threaten attacks, depending on what Kowalski can follow up with here. I mean, he's low on cards.
Both players are low on cards, but there is a Vizier in the graveyard for Gregor.
Of course.
Yuya has not managed to get rid of his own Vizier.
And there we go. Vizier of Many Faces is going to be embalmed. It's going to be on the other Vizier of Many Faces, which is a Whirler Virtuoso.
Trigger on the stack. We've seen this countless times.
We have indeed. So now there's some more energy for you, Gregor, but it's stranded. No way to spend it at the moment. And that does maintain that precarious attack for Yuya. Yuya would love to see, what, a Tune with Ether?
Yes, absolutely.
Ooh, he found the third option. It's a Servant of the Conduit, but that does make black mana for him.
Yeah, it takes a turn, but it's better than no black mana.
And he did have that clean attack. He also does have enough energy to make a Thopter if absolutely necessary, though. That, of course, would preclude that black mana that we've been talking about.
Kowalski with a huge draw here.
This is a massive draw step.
He needed some gas, and he drew a Rogue Refiner. So now he can really pull ahead in this game.
Now, he'd love to find a way to kill that Servant, right? Because if not, we're going to see Nicol Bolas and or Vraska next turn. This is happening.
He has been holding a negate the whole game.
That's right.
So he is protected from it. But his heads-up play earlier where he destroyed the Servant, he knows what's coming.
That was Nissa Steward of Elements off the top of the library. You said that he could get more gasoline flowing here, and boy, has he. And by the way, how precarious is that treasure plus land on an when your opponent's playing an X spell? I think Yuya may figure out what Gregor's on. And there it is. Nissa Steward of Elements is going to hit the battlefield. So now that's two active Planeswalkers, plus the Pirate, plus the Rogue Refiner here for Kowalski, and things are starting to look good for Poland. Now, this is the first of up to 3 Game 3s that we're going to be watching, but boy, each one matters so much.
I think Poland might be pulling ahead here. I believe this top card on Gregor Kowalski's library is River's Rebuke.
Oh my goodness.
Our spotter disagrees. It looks like Vraska's Contempt.
Okay.
I thought I saw a River's Rebuke, which would just be crushing. We will find out very soon.
So now Yuya has to be aware of the negate, as Gregor Kowalski has left up that 2 mana very conspicuously. So which one is he going to run out?
It's one thing to be aware of negate. The other question is, what are you going to do? Even if you know it and your best 2 cards in hand are Vraska and Nicol Bolas, you might just not have a chance if you don't play your Planeswalker this
So
turn.
which one do you play? Well, he's going big. He's going to go for the God Pharaoh himself, Nicol Bolas on the stack, though we know that thing's not going to resolve. And so did Yuya. And in fact, it does get met with a negate from Kowalski. And now Kowalski gets to untap with Rogue Refiner, 2 Pirates, an active Vraska, and an active Nissa Steward of Elements. He said he did not want to play against Yuya Watanabe, but he is moving very close to defeating the Japanese Hall of Famer here in this first game, in this first match here in the finals. Let's see what it was there for Kowalski that he kept on top. He scried one to the bottom, one to the top. He's doing it again. He's going to bottom these ones, it looks like. Yeah, a couple of lands. It was River's Rebuke. You were right. No need to update that prescription, Simon. How in the heck can Yuya ever come back from that?
It was difficult already. He tried with Nicol Bolas. We have to give him credit for that. Probably knowing that there was a negate in his future. But Gregor is so far ahead, he doesn't even have to River's Rebuke here. That's
insane.
That's how much he's dominating the sports state.
He can just send in with these Pirates. He can also send in with the Rogue Refiner if he wants, though that would leave him defenseless. And you know what? He seems content. He says, I'm just going to sit back on these Planeswalkers. I don't think you can beat them. And he might be right.
And if Yuya really deploys much on this battlefield, he still has River's Rebuke as a catch-all answer.
Yeah, Yuya, I would say likely to just go for the Vraska Relic Seeker here. But when your opponent's had one for 3 turns, you're just so far behind.
That -3 ability, good against artifact creatures, enchantments, but not so good when your opponent has all these tokens and 2 active planeswalkers.
Yeah, we've really seen that be the story of this game. Gregor Kowalski with a really astute play to lock Yuya Watanabe out of black mana earlier in the game. It really punished him. And Kowalski has been able to leverage the power of these planeswalkers ever since, and he's had multiple turns with them active, and we know how they just snowball out of control. It's so difficult to come back from that.
Kowalski used all of his resources. Even the treasure was pivotal in giving him the mana to negate whatever Yuya was up to.
Right, which happened to be the best card in his deck, at least on raw power level. Nicol Bolas God Pharaoh. Look at that, 2 planeswalkers in hand for Yuya Watanabe. Normally, you get 2 planeswalkers down, you're in business, but not when your opponent's had 2 planeswalkers down for a few turns already.
If these planeswalkers weren't on such high loyalty, Chandra would actually be pretty interesting here.
Okay, well, we're going to see Chandra Torch of Defiance. That's going to resolve. Plus, what can you find? Botanical Sanctum, take 2. For sure going to redirect it. The question is where.
There's almost no good choice here. You're kind of unhappy either way, but Nissa is maybe more threatening in the short term. No. Wants to keep that ultimate of Vraska under check.
This is just not a spot you want to be in if you're in Yuya Watanabe's seat. A land off the top for Kowalski is not really going to get much done, but he is so far ahead on board, basically every metric. And he even has, like you said, that kind of backup plan with the River's Rebuke if things get out of hand or if he sees a line where he can just win on the spot.
Yeah, and he can actually, for example, in this particular scenario, he can count Yuya's mana. That's currently at 8, which is not a ton for the amount of time that these players have spent this game. So Gregor knows that the best that Yuya can do if all his permanents get bounced is 2 permanents maybe, or Chandra make mana and then play 2 creatures. That might be enough to attack for lethal within the next 2 turns. If you also count the Planeswalker activations.
Gregor has his teammates flanking him, 1 on each side, and they're both giving him advice about how to proceed through the course of this game. They know how important this is. This is not going to be the match that wins the World Magic Cup, but boy, does it get you one huge step closer if you can pick up this one, especially against such a tough opponent in Yuya Watanabe in an effective mirror match. That is hard mode right there.
Europe has been extremely successful at the World Magic Cup, and Poland definitely doesn't want to concede the title to Japan here.
That's right, and there he goes. He fires off River's Rebuke, and it looks like he's also going to go for the ultimate here on Nissa. Is this lethal? 5, 10, 13,
It's
15? He's going to give him 1 here. And he also gets to make another pirate. And there's just nothing for Yuya to draw here. He draws a negate. He stares down at 6 cards and scoops them up. Gregors Kowalski wins the match and puts Poland 1 game away from upsetting Japan here in the finals. And I said 1 game, and I meant it, Simon. We've got 2 more games to watch today at the maximum. It might even just be 1. It looks like we're going to start things off here on the back table.
This is now the question: which table are we going to continue? You can see Kenta confirming. Do I have to play?
Yes.
or can I wait to see if it's if it's Shota who wins or not.
We also saw our floor reporter Tim Willoughby say, yes, this table, that's the one. So that means it's Kenta Harane playing White Blue God Pharaoh's Gift. He's up against Radek Kaczmarczyk, who's on Ramanop Red. He's on the draw. And now, this is insane because the fate of the World Magic Cup is now in Kenta Harane's hands if you're sitting from Japan's perspective, because if he loses, it's over.
Think about the pressure.
Unbelievable. And also, he literally has two legends of Japanese Magic and Hall of Famers just staring at him as he plays. This is not the time you want to make a mistake.
Shota Yasuoka actually not at that table.
No, Shota has sat at his own table throughout the course of the event. I think that he prefers to just put his trust in his opponent, in his teammates, rather than try to interfere, with offering advice. And even at that, Yuya Watanabe is watching, but he's not right in there with Kenta, and he's not actually saying or doing anything. He's just being maybe a backup.
Yeah, a lot of trust between these players.
I've been covering these events since their inception, these World Magic Cups, and I have to say I do think that that's the correct way to do it. I've seen teams really make big mistakes by overdoing it with the advice from other people.
I actually had that feeling in the semifinals when Poland was playing these crucial last games. It seemed like they were somehow making slightly worse decisions after they had discussed them with all three players. It was a weird effect to watch.
Yeah, the thing that you normally see is it's the consistency. They're taking a certain line of play and then they kind of veer, and none of the decisions individually are terrible. It's just you want to have a consistent game plan going. So where are we at here? We have a pair of Fairgrounds Wardens for Kenta Harane, who's at 15 life, facing down just a Earthshaker Kenra. How does that look from Kenta's perspective?
Currently great. What is going to happen, though, is that there will be a constant struggle between Radek and Kenta over this Rampaging Ferocidon. Both players know that having this in play changes the matchup completely. If Kenta cannot gain life, Radek will almost inevitably win the match. On the other hand, if Kenta can deal with a Ferocidon, he is free to do whatever his deck wants to do.
And that is certainly more over the top and more powerful than what Radek's bringing to the table.
That's a crazy hand by Harane. Settle the Wreckage, and 3 Angels of Invention. So what I just said about Rampaging Ferocidon is even more important than I thought. By the way, nice little bit of tech in Radek's hand.
Look at that.
Dual shot. Maybe just wants to trade Earthshaker Kenra
and a dual shot.
Because Earthshaker Kenra in the graveyard is actually not that bad. Kenta actually respects this attack and doesn't block at all.
Kenta's at 13 life and falling.
But he did draw a land, I believe.
He did. He drew Hostile Desert.
Okay, so
There's Kenta Harane.
he has 5 lands. He has Angel of Invention, but there is a Rampaging Ferocidon on the other side of the table. You want to settle the Wreckage hit. That's the only thing I can think of. You pass the turn, and if that Rampaging Ferocidon dares to attack, you snap off Settle the Wreckage.
But Radek looks like he wants to protect it as well. Well, he's going to go for a much more game-swinging play potentially here with this Angel of Invention, though it's going to cost him.
And I don't quite get what he's trying to achieve there with the Angel. It's if he wants to make blockers, he's losing life to the Ferocidon. If he's making a huge Angel, it's still only a 4/3, so that it's dead to most removal spells in Radek's deck. And
Doesn't have lifelink anymore.
Well, it has lifelink, but of course it's turned off by the Ferocidon. Maybe he was just concerned that Radek wouldn't attack into that Settle the Wreckage.
interesting decision point there from Radek, as well as Kenta. He was trying to decide, well, do I want to make servos or do I want to put the counters on? But of course, Radek has to decide before that trigger resolves. As it stands, Kenta, since he lost the Angel of Invention, says, okay, well, I'll just take the servos. Though, as you mentioned before, that hurts. And his life total is starting to fall pretty quickly here, Simon.
And now what do you do when the Ferocidon attacks? Do you block it with everything?
Triple block it?
Is that your game plan? I'm a bit surprised by this Angel that we saw.
Now, interestingly, as it would turn out, that triple block would work.
Sometimes you just have to go for it. Also, the Fairgrounds Warden, I think it just ate a Soulscar Mage, so that's not something you are super concerned about giving back to your opponent.
Right. The Soulscar Mage at this point in the game probably not going to be the thing that kills you.
I can't imagine letting the Ferocidon through and going to 7 or
I think
or
he's going to
lower.
triple block it, Simon.
It makes the most sense given what we know, but
He also just may feel forced to make this play, even if he's not really comfortable with the potential outcome here.
well, he had to consider
There it
this.
is.
He had to consider this when he played the Angel. I don't think he just made the decision. He had to make this decision, maybe together with Yuya, when he decided to play the Angel over Settle the Wreckage.
Okay, well, he's done it. He's triple blocked. And given the hand that Radek has, look at that, just a Soulscar Mage and some land. So he is going to get away with this. And now Radek has to just decide if he wants to kill 2 servos or the Fairgrounds Warden.
Radek does not look happy. This is the face of a man that just saw what he didn't want to see.
Yeah, and look at this. This is a spot where it's like there's so many cards I could have had that would punish you for this, and I just don't have one in my hand.
To be fair, he had the dual shot earlier, and
Yes.
then Kenta drew it out. So Kenta had more information about what was going on and what could be in Radek's hand there.
And this is the last spell here for Radek. So now it's all on Kenta Harane to start slamming. Well, as it turns out, look at his hand.
Angels, angels, angels.
Angels for days. There's another Angel of Invention, and this one could be slipping away from Radek here. He no longer has the Rampaging Ferocidon to prevent any type of life gain, and he has nothing left in his hand either.
Kenta just needs to connect with the Angel. If he starts gaining life, if he gets to untap with Settle the Wreckage, another Angel of Invention, or even the Angel of Sanctions, because now he doesn't even fear a second Rampaging Ferocidon, suddenly he has won the game.
This one has swung right back in Japan's direction. Kenta Harane, with everybody back home in Japan watching and rooting him on, saying, just give Shota a chance to win this thing for us, has swung the tables back due to perhaps a risky line that paid off for him and the fact that Radek is just flooding out now. He's got a pair of mountains in his hand.
That triple block.
That was the game.
Yeah. If you don't, you have to make it, and you have to pray that it works out.
And given the raw power in Kenta Harane's hand, it's hard to imagine him losing from this point. His hand is another Angel of Invention, if you can imagine that, an Angel of Sanctions to deal with any problematic permanents, and he even has a backup Settle the Wreckage, though the Angels are just better at this point.
The Angels are better, true. He doesn't need to rely on Settle the Wreckage, and that's something which I like about the play. He didn't give his opponent, and it's actually 3 opponents at this stage, he didn't give them the opportunity to play around his cards. He forced them to have something, and they didn't have it.
So Earthshaker Kenra is going to attack, but this is just an attempt to set up a later eternalized Earthshaker Kenra. And Harane says, you know, if that's what you're going to do, I got an Angel of Sanctions in my hand. I can take care of that all day. There's no way even an eternalized Earthshaker Kenra is getting through the 3 servos on the ground. So he's just going to trade off, land, and he's just going to go ahead and bring it back right now, at least attempting to be mana efficient. Passes the turn back to Harane, and this one has completely spiraled out of hand. Poland looked like they were going to be on the verge, and all of a sudden, Kenta Harane, look how quickly he's playing now. He's going to now attack for 3 in the air. That's with lifelink. He's back up to 11, and I don't know how Poland gets out of this mess. Look at that board state now.
Beautiful. Now, the Angels also have 2 toughness.
Yes.
No dual shots, nothing in that regard.
I mean, yeah, think about the best. Like, look at this. There's a Chandra Torch of Defiance. That's probably his best draw.
That's a very good start.
Yeah.
You get to,
Still doesn't fix it.
but you have to kill an Angel. You're not going to beat 5/3/3 servos and 2/3/2 flying lifelinkers.
Right.
You do lose the Chandra. It's a trade. It's not much better than a Lightning Strike.
But it does seem like a necessary move here just to even make a shot at getting this thing.
If you want to spin the wheel, you can exile your top card and cast the Lightning Strike that your top deck. But that seems...
Oh, man. I just looked into the feature match area. Shota Yasuoka is standing at his table stretching. Like, he looks like a boxer about ready to go into the ring. I think he maybe took a quick gander down at the other table and saw how things were going, and he's just sort of getting warmed up over there, shadow boxing, getting ready to face Pyotr Glukhovsky if it comes to that.
He knows what's waiting for him.
Okay, so there's that slightly better than a lightning strike, Chandra Torch of Defiance. And he's going to pass it. Well, he's going to play his land and then pass the turn back to Kenta Harane. Kenta still with Settle the Wreckage, still with Angel of Sanctions and his draw step coming as well.
He could even attack with much more here.
There it is, Angel of Sanctions. That's going to kill the Eternalized token.
I think he might be attacking with some servos here. He's not at any danger of losing, and 5/2/2s match up pretty nicely against.
Whoa, how about
support.
all of them?
Yes.
Team in. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and Chandra dies. I gain 2. So 13 is what Kenta Harane is at. There we go. Yeah, I'm not seeing any outs here for Radek at this point.
This is over. Radek is out of outs at this stage. Top deck Lightning Strike for the second Angel.
Would be fine, but he instead drew Kari Zev, Skyship Raider. Absolutely not what he wants to see. And Simon, as if it were scripted, my friend, we are going to be seeing a Game 3, Match 3 for everything. As that's the handshake from Radek Kazmarchik, and Kenta Harane does his teammates proud and forces one game to decide the World Magic Cup. Don't you leave. This next one is going to be Shota Yasuoka right there. Look at him. He says, I got this, guys. Don't worry. On the other side of the table, that's Canister, Pyotr Glukhovsky on white-blue cycling. We saw him in the top 8 of the last Pro Tour. And boy, does he have his hands full here with Shota Yasuoka playing beautifully with, I know it sounds weird, he's playing Ramanop Red. Not what we expect from Shota, generally speaking.
Two of the masterminds on their respective teams. Shota Yasuoka has played some beautiful Magic. He took lines that nobody else saw. And I'm not talking about Twitch chat claiming that they saw it. This was just off the walls bonkers, what we witnessed, especially today.
I actually had a chance to chat with Mattia Rizzi, who he defeated to get to this point, and I said, Shota's just insane, and he just shook his head. He was just like, what am I supposed to do? This guy's he just plays so good. Okay, turn 1 Bomat career here from Shota Yasuoka. Certainly high on his list of turn 1 plays, as that can fuel his draw steps down the line. And this is Pyotr Glukhovsky just cycling a cast out early. Kari Zev was a follow-up play for Shota Yasuoka as he passes the turn back. Land number 2 incoming here for Glukhovsky. The early stages are always rough for this white-blue cycling deck. They just don't have a lot of interaction in the early, but in the mid to late, they can certainly do well. They can even come back.
Absolutely, but Shota with an amazing draw here.
Kari
Zev is just a 3-power attacker on turn 2, and he's holding some of his trademark cards here. Either Sphere Harvester to play around mass removal. He also has a Braid and 2 Lightning Strikes, so maybe a bit more burn spells than Pyotr is expecting.
So Glogowski down to 14. And what's the follow-up? It is that Ether Sphere Harvester. He has left the shields down on the Bomat Courier, but it's really hard to get punished for that.
He's playing against blue-white cycling. This is
Right.
not a deck that has access to dual shot or anything like that, or fatal push. So he just wants to curve out. He wants to threaten this aggressive draw. Sensor is probably the best answer that Piotr can come up with here.
He's going to go ahead and counter the Ether Sphere Harvester, so that's going to hit the graveyard. Drakehaven was the draw step there for Glogowski.
Once again, that Abrade in Shota's hand, he is sideboarding cards or keeping cards in his deck that are only really good if Piotr brings in Torrential Gearhulk. If he doesn't, there's a single abandoned sarcophagus for Shota to destroy. Apart from Drakehaven tokens, of course.
Piotr Glogowski is consulting with his teammates right now. That's why you see the pace of play move a little bit slower than you'd be used to. They're allowed to consult, but not too much.
Not too much, and it's still very clearly Piotr playing his deck. It's not
That's
like they are somehow joining together,
Right.
three-headed giant style.
So Piotr Glogowski plays Drakehaven, though that's just an empty board for Shota Yasuoka, and look at this.
Yeah, and as important as that Drakehaven is for Piotr's strategy, it's not what he wants to have early on against Ramana Bread. He wants board impacting spells.
And this one is actually shaping up very interestingly for Shota. His hand is Abrade, Lightning Strike, and he drew Hazoret the Fervent. He's just going to go upstairs with a Lightning Strike. This is starting to get very aggressive here for Shota. Remember, this game decides the World Magic Cup. Right here, right now, the winner of this is going to earn their team the trophy. And now a tap land from Peter Glogowski means that the best he can do is make some Drakes, as he has Settled the Wreckage in his hand, but can't cast it.
A tapped land on turn 4, we've seen this a lot of times, especially with the fast lands. You not being able to cast your powerful 4-drops, whether it be Chandra or Settle the Wreckage, that can spell disaster. And Shota knows that he has to make the most out of this turn.
I think it's going to be Renewed Faith here for Glogowski. He can cycle it and make a Drake, but that would leave him tapped out at 9. Shota has Lightning Strike in hand.
And what do you do about this Bomet Courier? It has 5 cards under it.
There it is, Renewed Faith, cycle. I'd like to gain 2 life. I'd like to pay for a Drake, and I'd like to draw a card. That's a lot of action.
Maybe it's a hard cast, Marshall.
Was it? Huh. Is that what happened? Is he up to 13? You must be right. There's no Drake.
I thought
He could have verbalized
He's at 9, so
blocking.
it's 13 minus 4.
All right, well, at 9 life, he's just going to pass the turn back, and he's kind of all in on this Settle the Wreckage at this point.
But now we will see that Shota is absolutely aware of Settle the Wreckage here. I don't think we will see an attack with everything here.
How close is he? He's only got that Abrade left in his hand at this point, so cashing in the Bomat Courier looks pretty attractive now.
Well, then you can't attack with Hazoret anymore.
You can start chucking cards. I mean, the interesting thing to me is, when do you start attacking with Hazoret if you think that your opponent's on Settle the Wreckage?
Yeah, when
Because it has that static effect, too.
I don't think you do that when there are 4 untapped lands on the other side. You want to expose as few creatures as possible so that you're still happy with the end result.
Okay, that's exactly what's happening here. Shota Yasuoka attacking with just Karizev and the Bomat Courier. That's 4 damage if it hits. And Glogowski's going to stay patient with the Settle the Wreckage and cycle a Hieroglyphic Illumination instead, it looks like. There's a Drake. And he's going to make 2 Drakes this turn. A Cast Out is also going to get cycled. This could give him a double block on Karizev. He could block Ragavan for low value and force the issue with the courier? He's got a lot of options here.
No,
Simon.
he took the low value life gain play last turn. I think now he has to make the double block or at least get rid of the courier.
There it is. Block. This does have him only taking 1 damage. And are we going to see Shota just say, okay, lightning strike you, and then cash in the courier? He's considering it. He also could lightning strike the Drake on the courier to keep that dream going,
But then I think he would have used lightning strike before blockers.
and force Pyotr to put the Drake on the courier.
Because why would you do it that way?
Sure.
No, I think 3 to the face and then just cash in for a new hand.
Shota's deep in the tank here. He doesn't need any help.
Shota is just not losing today.
He has so far refused. He's actually going to use the Abrade to kill the Drake.
Okay, and the Abrade, of course, does not go to the face.
That's right.
Pyotr also very far away from any torrential Gearhogs.
Yeah, he basically got to just maintain this board state, but now look at the Bomat courier. How in the world is Glogowski going to get through 6 extra cards, probably 7?
Yeah, better than Ancestral Recall.
Unbelievable.
And if Pyotr doesn't keep open mana for Settle the Wreckage, then Shota just wrecks him completely. That's a start.
Okay, Authority of the Consuls now for Glogowski. That's a way to start coming back. Land, do 1 to you.
And Shota is so patient. He doesn't sacrifice the Bomat Courier. He doesn't attack with Hazoret. He knows that the late game favors him. Not the absolute late game, but
Yeah.
the late game that he will allow Pyotr to have.
Yeah, there's just nothing that Pyotr can do to interact with these things as long as Shota doesn't want him to.
Maybe Shota should play aggro decks more often.
Maybe so. Here he is attacking once again. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 damage. And with Ramanop Ruins on the battlefield, this is a lethal attack. So Pyotr has to do something. Well, he does have to make sure to trigger that Authority of the Consuls thanks to Ragavan.
There's a really nice interaction where you stack Bomat Courier and Karizev in a way that if your opponent has settled the wreckage, they have to wait till you have the extra card under the Courier to also get the monkey.
Oh, that's great. That's value. I like that.
It's
Simon.
1 extra card when you already have like 7 under the Courier, but it's 1 extra card.
Hey, I'll take an extra card. Man, I can't imagine this. There's so few people in the world you'd want above Shota Yasuoka if you had the World Magic Cup on the line. And you can see the Japanese player showing him immense respect, just letting him do his thing. Meanwhile, on the other side, Poland is taking the team approach here, and they're just talking it through.
And
There's Settle the Wreckage for Glogowski. And there's Lightning Strike to your face. You're down to 5, and I'm going to cash in this courier. So here we go. A full grip now for Shota Yasuoka.
and soon the lands to cast those
Yes.
cards.
Yes.
That Settle the Wreckage looks like a disadvantage for Pyotr.
It does feel, as we say in the business, feels bad, man. That is not going to work out well for Pyotr Glogowski. Shota Yasuoka, again, just running circles around the feature material all day today, and he's moved Japan within striking range of winning the World Magic Cup here. All the pressure on him, and he just calmly, no problem, played Ramanop Red, not his style, not the type of deck that he likes to bring to tournaments, no problem, plays it differently than anybody else. And we are that close. It's 20-5 in Shota's favor. He's going to play Bomat Courier. That's going to put Glogowski up to 6, and he's going to pass the turn back. He still has Hazoret the Fervent at the ready. Now, admittedly a little far off from being able to attack with Hazoret.
Yes, but being able to be activated. And Pyotr is on 6 life. That's just 3 activations.
Does he have enough mana to just triple activate? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. He's 1 mana short.
And he has it in hand. Pyotr needs Renewed Faith to
He
even
has
stay
to
alive.
have Renewed Faith? Oh, he's tapping 4 mana.
Cast out. Get rid of Hazoret. Live another turn.
Okay. That works.
You're not doing anything else this turn.
Just buying himself turns. And now we get to see the raw power of Bomat Courier.
Because drawing 7 wasn't enough
Right.
the first time.
So let's start it again. And let's see what Shota found with all of that. One thing to keep in mind as well is Ramanop Ruins, which he's got that and a Sun-Scorched Desert on the battlefield.
Yeah, and that's the slower version of Hazoret.
Rampaging Ferocidon. Pyotr's going to trigger it, but as we know, it won't do anything now. He's now shut down the life gain ability from that authority of the consoles. So once again, you see Shota just maneuvering, taking away advantages, slowly but surely. And there's Bomat Courier to knock Glogowski down to 5. And there's a second copy of Hazoret the Fervent on the battlefield now for Shota Yasuoka.
Which will lose Shota alive?
It should lose Shota alive.
Which is
I
probably
thought
not.
Pyotr would be at 5 now, though I may have been incorrect there. He draws his card for the turn, and surely this one's almost over.
At some point, you just don't have any outs left. Fumigate is a good reset button. But look at Pyotr. He should be favored if the game goes on for that many turns.
Look at Shota. It's just another day in the office for this guy. I swear, they handed him Ramanop Red. He could not have been thrilled about that. And he has just been putting on a show in the feature match area. He had all the pressure on him. We had 3 game 3s to decide this tournament. And of course, they split the first 2. And then both of the players from Team Japan looked over at Shota Yasuoka and said, "Take us home." And he is on the verge of doing just that. Look at Kenta Hirane. He's watching to learn, by the way. He's not offering advice.
It's just moral support.
Right. Okay, there's that Fumigate. That will kill the Rampaging Ferocidon. That will also kill the Bomat Courier. But his problems are far from over because that is Hazoret the Fervent and a ton of mana. Glogowski showing at 7 now.
7 life.
And it looks like Shota Yasuoka's going for it, and that's going to do it. Team Japan gets there. They are your team champions here at the World Magic Cup 2017, defeating Poland in the final game of the final match. And a little bit of emotion from both Yuya and Kenta Hirane. Congratulations, Team Japan. You were one of the best teams coming in, and they converted. And, of course, Shota's just going to go walk off and find out if there's a booster draft going somewhere. Look at him.
That's his trophy.
I love that guy. He is just one of my favorite players to watch. He has been since the first time I saw him play. And wow, Team Japan put all of the pressure on him, and he came through for them. Congratulations, Japan. You are our champions. World Magic Cup 2017. You know, it's funny. They've had a lot of great teams coming into this tournament before, Simon. And I wouldn't have been surprised at all if some of them had won one of these things. But again, if I told you at the beginning of a tournament, look at the team rosters, just go over them, and I said, Japan wins, you wouldn't be surprised. That team is insane.
They were the best team coming in. We talked a lot about Team Brazil. We mentioned Team USA, definitely a strong squad. But Team Japan was the superstar team. But they had historically struggled with the World Magic Cup. And if you only make day 2, 1/5 of the time you're starting, it does become kind of difficult to win the tournament.
Yeah. Thanks so much for hanging out with Simon and I in the booth. We are going to sign off from here, but we've got a lot more, including the awards ceremony. We get to give the trophies away. That's one of my favorite parts of the whole weekend. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Wow, what an amazing finals we get here at the 2017 World Magic Cup. Marie Bartholdi at the news desk, joined by Rich Hagan and Matej Zadelkai. Matej, what did you make of that final game?
It was just awesome to see. And again, game 3, match 3, we've been there before, right? I mean, all the drama, all the tension.
Down to the wire.
Yeah, and I appreciate the effort of Poland and Gregor Kowalski there winning in the middle and over Yuya Watanabe. But did we have any doubts that Shota Yasuoka would win that? He's just an amazing Magic player, and we call him the Control Master. Well, now we can call him the Red Aggro Master. He's mastered it now all.
Yeah, it doesn't matter from turn 1 to turn 21. He just Magic's one of those. It's a very flirty game because it teases you that you think you can be as good as the players who are at the highest level because you use the same cards on the same turn with, well, maybe not the exact same basic lands, at least not for a few more days, but you feel that, oh, that could be me if I just work that little bit harder. When you watch someone like Shota play, you think, yes, if I work that just that little bit harder for about another 30 or 40 years, maybe. He's just on a different level to most of the other pros in the room, much less the competition as a whole.
Yeah, and also he was basically playing that ram in a bread deck, like a control deck, right? The last game, the Bomat Courier put 7 cards in my hand, reliving his good old control days and just taking it to a successful finish.
The last time I saw a red player play an aggressive deck like that was actually a compatriot of Shota's, Tomohiro Saito, way back at a European Grand Prix 2008. And he worked out that his deck full of 1-drops and 2-drops and try and get you killed by turn 4 couldn't possibly win the match. So he just went, yeah, I'm just going to be a control deck. And he sat there and he just methodically dissected some very, very good opponents. I think that might have been in Italy, 2008. But yeah, that is literally the last time I saw such a complete contrast between what the deck looks like it's doing and the way that the master played it out.
And you mentioned the word methodical there, and you saw Shota kind of sitting off to the side while the other matches were going, trusting in his teammates to make the right decisions. Is that something we see from the Japanese team a lot?
They're just, it's a different culture altogether, and when you have such 3 good players, sometimes you just don't need even advice from the others. You just play your game. Your opponents, your teammates have your trust. You just get there eventually, just like Japan did.
All right, well, it is time for the award ceremony here at the World Magic Cup.
Hey there, welcome to the feature match area here at the World Magic Cup in Nice, France. What a crazy finals that was. Of course, it came down to the last game, and that means it is now time to recognize our champions from Japan, Kenta Hirane, Shota Yasuoka, and Yuya Watanabe. Wow, guys. So you were one of the best teams coming into the field in most people's estimation. How did you feel your chances were before you got here?
ほとんどの方々は日本のチームがこの3カ国の中で一番強いと思われてたそうですが、渡辺さん的には勝てる確率どのくらいだと思ってましたか？
そうですね。結構このチームはかなりいけると思ってたんで、5割ぐらいはいけるかなと思ってました。
Well, I knew we got really good team, so I was 50% sure we would win.
50%? That's pretty good. Okay, I have to ask this. So you go to the very last game of the tournament, and you two look over and you see him. You must have felt so good to have such a good player playing in that last game.
そうですね。Sorry, as him last?
Him.
Sorry. Kind of.
Oh, I was just asking. They both had to look at him, and he had to win the game. That must have felt so good.
Sorry, I'm kind of.
Oh, I wanted to ask them how it felt to have such a good player playing for the championship for them.
素晴らしいプレーがね、一緒にプレーされててどのように感じましたかと。
もう僕が負けてもチームは勝つなって思いながらやってましたね。
I knew that even if I lose, they will win for me. So, yeah.
That's great. You got to have faith in your teammates, and these guys have it. They are your champions for the World Magic Cup 2017, the team from Japan.